Hi, this is Pam, Flower Patch Farmhouse. Today I'm going to share how I paint on some inexpensive little soaps. You can get these at Walmart. I like the ivory, regular ivory bar soaps, and they come in a large package for a very inexpensive price at Walmart. You might be able to pick them up other places too. This one is a pansy I had just started and I haven't finished yet. But before I do anything, I take my 3/4 inch flat brush and I have some Mod Podge here. And this one has already been done, and I'm just going to paint on a coat of Mod Podge. And then that kind of seals the soap for painting on your design. And I will let that dry. Let me put the lid on this Mod Podge and then I can show you. This one is one that was sent to me by Plaid Folk Art. And this is the Martha Stewart. Let me go out a little bit so you can see it and focus. This is the Martha Stewart Crafts Decoupage, and this was the glow in the dark. So these soaps will glow in the dark, and that's just fine. It's what I had on hand, so I'm going to use it for this project. Now I'm going to let those dry, and I'll come back in and paint a design. Now we'll paint this sunflower on a bar of soap. Now, if you're a little nervous, you can practice first, and I'll show you my little practice piece. Let's zoom out so you can see the whole thing, where I don't know if you can see the pencil lines, but around here I drew around one of the bars of soap, and I got the lines so I could practice staying within it. And this middle part is on a card. I have a package of cards from Strathmore to paint, and I was kind of laying out a snowman scene to paint, and I may or may not do a video on that. We'll see how well that turns out. And here is a pansy bar of soap that I was going to do two pansies next to each other and realized I made a design error. Let me see if that's focused. And I just filled in with daisies instead because I couldn't make the two pansies work. Now, I didn't do a test run on the paper first, and this is just an example of how you need to be creative sometimes to fix your mistakes without having to completely wash it off. Here's one. I don't know if you can see it stained or not, but I totally messed up on it, and I washed it off. It washed off the decoupage and everything, and then I've gone back in, re-decoupaged it, and then I went over it with a creamy color paint because the stain, it was a red color and it stained the bar of soap. So just things you learn to do to fix your errors. Now I'm going to load up my palette and we're going to paint a sunflower. And so you know, I do have another entire video on painting sunflowers on my website and on my YouTube channel if you want to view that. I will get everything ready and be right back, and we will paint this sunflower. So for this soap painting demo, I'm going to use these 5 colors, and then this is optional, but I find it fun. It adds a little bit of glitter, sparkliness to your design. This is Folk Art Multi-Surface Disco Crystal. I think this is fairly new. They sent it to me to try in a box of stuff, and I really like it for these soaps because it just makes them fun and glittery. So here's the 5 colors. The 2 greens, I always use a dark and a light green for my leaves. This is Thicket and Fresh Foliage. Real brown and yellow ochre for the center of the sunflower, and then daffodil yellow and yellow ochre for the petals. So let's get started. Let's get my bar soap here, and we'll zoom in for you. And I will do my best. I'm kind of at an odd angle, as I always am when I'm videoing. I have the small scruffy from my Donna Dewberry package. It's a 1/4 inch scruffy, and I double load it with the yellow ochre and the real brown. And you just pounce it on there. I didn't wet it first. You want this fairly dry. And you kind of center it. And you just tap along, and you're going to go and make a donut shape, so to speak. And I want it real thick because I want it to cover. If I have to, I can do this a second time, but you come around, make a C, and then you come back up. And you notice how you have all the colors there on it. Now, if I want to, I can highlight a little bit more of the yellow ochre. Don't worry, that you're going to come back to that later. I'm just rinsing out my scruffy brush because when I do the other one, I want it to be fairly dry. So I rinse it, pounce it dry on my towel. Okay, here is the number 8 flat brush from that same packet of brushes. It's been dampened because that prevents the paint from drying too quickly in your brush. Now I'm going to go into mostly yellow ochre because I want the back petals to be darker. So I've got the yellow ochre here, and I'm going to dip a little bit side load into the daffodil yellow. But I'm going to come along and I'm going to just make my petals. I reload when I feel like I need more, and I just work around my sunflower. Center. Just, let me see if I got enough paint on that one. Yeah, it's getting a little thin, so I will load more on there. Lots of paint is good. You don't want it gloppy, but you want it to cover well. Yellows are typically not very opaque, so sometimes you really gotta put the color on there. Now, if you see, some of them aren't like I want. Okay, so there is the petals. Now, if I look at my other one, I notice that my center isn't as big as it was on that one. So I'm going to have to fill in with leaves. On this one, I did the leaves underneath, but this one I'm just going to put them on top next to the sunflower. So I will let this dry. I'm rinsing out my brush because while that's drying, I'm going to do some of the leaves. Now, here's my fresh foliage and my thicket. And I'm double loading the brush, still the number 8 flat. And to get the leaves opaque, I may come back and do them again, but we'll see if I get the correct opacity with just one coat. I'll move my thing out of the way. Let's see, I want one to go up in the corner. So wiggle, 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 and then come to a point. I have a tendency to jerk that tip, and I need to be more precise about it. There. So there's a leaf. And let's see, maybe the opposite corner, or maybe right here. And I'm wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I'm really pressing that brush and bring it to a point, or you can make them even skinnier. I don't want to go over the leaf or petal of the flower. So it was more on the tip of the brush or the chisel edge to make that leaf. So if I want to add some little slider leaves, I can just kind of touch the tip of my brush, make the stem, and then there's a slider leaves. And let's see, I guess maybe it's dry enough that I can come in. I don't know, it really looks like it needs some other leaves, doesn't it? Well, maybe I'll wait and see. This is where practicing on a piece of paper, like I showed you, can really help, because you can work out the design you want to do without making mistakes. Now, I think I really would have preferred the larger center, but I'm just going to go with this for now. Now this time I'm going into all daffodil yellow to do my strokes. And these petals are not going to be quite as long as the under petals, but I'm going to go between each under petal. And I should skip that one for now because that green is probably still wet and it would drag it into the paint. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just doing the same way. Just these are like the slider leaves. They're just slider petals all the way around your sunflower. Nope, it didn't get yellow on there, so it must be drying quickly. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that one, last one. And there are your petals. Now, if you wanted to, you could go back around with that daffodil yellow again once this top coat is dried to give it more opacity, but I kind of like the yellow ochre peeking through. Now I'm going to come back with that same scruffy brush, and I'm going to double load again the two colors. I got it pretty thick on there, so we'll see how we do. I'm going to come around and we're going to go back over that. Now if I want, I can dip just a bit of my scruffy into the daffodil and then highlight a little bit on, I got it down a little far, on that. And then we can decide what we want to do here. I don't know what we want to do. I guess we could do some more leaves, some more slider leaves. See, it really would have been better if it would have been a bigger sunflower. But this is just a demo and showing you my mistakes is supposed to help you be brave. I don't know if it does or not, but okay, there we go. We'll add these slider leaves in there to kind of fill in space. And there you have a daffodil on soap. Now, if you want to add the glitter, that's fairly easy. I just go over areas. And if you don't like the highlight here, sorry to interrupt, I'm going over my glitter. The way the center turned out, you can just go back over it. In fact, I will because I don't like it. I know I bounce all over the place, but that's how I fly. Let's see. Just go back over it with your scruffy, clean it up, and you'll see some of that brighter yellow showed through. I like the way it looks now, and we are good to fly with that. Okay, back to the glitter. Since I'm not going to use a lot of the glitter, I'm just going to take it right out of the lid. I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush. This is a number 6. Let me make sure it's all cleaned out. I usually leave my soap, my brush cleaning soap, in my brushes to reshape them, and that is all in my basic brush care blog post. So I have to rinse them every time before I use them, except for the scruffies. I don't do that with the scruffies, so you can't really see it, but I'm working some of that glitter paint into my brush, and then I'm just going over the dried petals. These are all dried. I'm going over the lighter ones since they're on top, and I'll bring them forward. I'm not completely dry because I'm getting a little yellow in there, but it doesn't matter. It's doing what I want it to do and not really lifting much. Okay. Now I'm rinsing out my brush, get all the yellow out, and then I can go over the leaves too. So I'm getting more glitter paint, and you can just brush it on. You don't have to do the squiggle stroke, just brush it on there to put some glitter on your leaves. I don't even know if you really can see the glitter, but in person it really is pretty. And it's subtle, it's not garish or that strong of an effect. So there you have your sunflower soap. And let's see, here's the pansy, and I have a pansy tutorial, like I said before, on my website and on YouTube, and you just do the same as you did with the sunflower. I don't know what else I can paint. Let me see. I'll think about it and come back and we'll paint another one. Well, I thought before we moved on to another one, I would show you how I would Mod Podge over the design. This is completely dry, and I'm just dipping my brush. You have some Mod Podge, and I'm just going over the design with a nice coat, and I'll let that dry. I don't want to overwork it because you could reactivate the paint beneath and it would start to pull off. So we'll let that dry, and then I would do one more coat, and then that is done. And it will glow in the dark. For this one, I think I'm going to do some small violets or purple flowers on this one because I didn't have a purple. I've got blue, yellow, and with this I'm going to use the same greens. I have lavender, light lavender, and eggplant. Plaid Folk Art used to make a purple called dioxazine, and that one was really a pretty dark purple, and they no longer make it anymore. I'm not sure why, but I haven't found anything to replace it. So we're going to have to go with eggplant. And I guess you could darken it with black or anything, but black kind of dulls colors. So we'll just make this work. Now I'm going to just pounce on a background of the dark purple. I'm not going to start by putting a green on it. I'm just going to, well, that didn't work. I got to get something with color on it. On the white, it doesn't want to focus. Okay. There we go. Hopefully it's focused. I'm going to pounce my scruffy brush. This is the large scruffy, not the small one like I used on the sunflower. And I am just loading it up nice and thick with paint. And I'm going to just do kind of like a oval or an area. It doesn't matter if it's not totally opaque, but just an area of purple. And we will let that dry so that we can go over it with our lighter purples. Now in the meantime, I'm going to paint the leaves. Let me finish cleaning out my scruffy and dry it, and then I'll come back. For the leaves on this, I am going to use the same green, thicket and fresh foliage, and I'm just going to make little leaves. This is the number 6 Donna Dewberry Plaid Folk Art brush. Now these brushes that I'm using, I've had for a year, and with proper care they last a long time and maintain their chisel edge. And I have an entire post on my brush care as well as my favorite tools, because my brush basin is a large part of my brush care. So on the chisel edge I'm going to make kind of a stem, and then I'm just going to do some of the slider leaves. I'm not bothered that they aren't perfect. Got a little bit too gloppy on there. I usually do them in threes or 5s. And you could do them right off the edge without a stem if you wished, to add a little bit of greenery around. And there you have it. Now hopefully that will dry quickly. I'm going to get my blow dryer and dry it, and then I'll come back and finish up some of my posies on it. It may look a little beat up now. I dropped it, so note, keep a good handle on your bar of soap. Okay, I can fix those leaves where they got kind of chipped and smooshed on the floor later. So for now, we're going to take our second color. See, I have the 3 colors, a darker, a lighter, and the lightest lavender. So I'm going to go with the second color. Now I still have a bit of the darker purple, the eggplant, on my palette, because I'm going to put a little bit in with my lavender. So I'm going to side load. This is kind of everywhere, so I'm just going to pick it up with the corner of my brush and work it in. I'm going to get plenty of paint in my brush. And I could just put another puddle out there. But I'm going to work from the outside in. Now it doesn't show up a lot, but we want, well, I kind of dipped it in the wrong color, but that's okay. Now I'm not even going to finish the flowers. I'm just going to go around the edges and put in some miscellaneous petals with the dark and the lavender, because we're going to build towards the center. And I'm not trying to cover all the dark purple on the outside perfectly. I'm just working around my area, overlapping some of the petals. And then I'll just put plain lavender in the center. I'll do a few of the strokes. Still leaving a lot of the dark showing. I rinse out my brush, dry it on my towel, and I'm going to come in with the lighter lavender. I don't need a lot because I'm not going to be doing a lot. And I'm going to pick up the medium lavender, but mostly the lighter lavender. So I would say 2/3 the lighter lavender and 1/3 the darker lavender. And I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to kind of overlap the other flowers and work my way in towards the center. I'm not going to cover every little bit. I still want some of that dark showing through. You kind of look at it and see where you want to add more, or a touch of this and that. Where it may need a stroke or two. And then I'm going to use white. I don't need a lot of white, so I'm not even going to bother putting it out on the palette. And I'm just going to dip my brush in it, get some of that lavender, and I'm going to highlight some in the center. Still got a lot of the lighter lavender on my palette, and just touch in some highlights. So there we have that. We need to look around. I see that edge needs a petal or two, so I'm going to put just the dark purple petal in there. Maybe give it a touch of the lighter lavender, or darker lavender, excuse me. And then we come in, and I'm going to do this with the light green. You could do it with the dark green, but I think the light green will show up better. This is the #1 liner brush that comes in the Donna Dewberry multi-pack. And I'm just going to dip into my lighter green. Make sure it comes to a point. I don't want big globs on there. And I'm just going to touch where I want to indicate the center of a flower is, even if it's behind other flowers. And you can kind of see where the juncture is of those flowers. I got a little bit of water on my ferrule, so that'll run down and drip if I don't take it off. You don't have to be too precise. Just indicate centers of flower. You don't want to get it too busy, but make sure they're evenly spaced around your design, kind of where you'd like them to be. And there you have your violets, which you can add. Let me find my #6 brush again. Some little floater buds out here. I will make them these two colors, the light lavender and the lavender, and you just make them kind of out here to add a little touch. And now I will go back in and fix my leaves, since I banged them up, by dropping the soap. I see that's an indication that the soap broke through my coating of Mod Podge. And if I want to, I can add like a little green stem coming out to the little lavender buds. Oh, I probably got off camera, I'm sorry. Whoops, there's my phone. All right, now I'll add those stems. If your paint's gotten too thick, just add a little water to your brush. Make sure you don't have anything on your ferrule, because the water can drip down. So I am loading it with the green, making sure it's coming to a point. And just on the point, I'm going to just indicate stems. And you can add little twirly stems or little viney things to give it a little bit of fun, like little squiggly lines. Doesn't matter if they're very light. And there you have your violets. I would, and will, I think some of it's dry enough. I will go back in with the glitter and put a bit of glitter on. I won't do all of the violets, but just some of them. Just a little bit of here and there. I will do the little buds. And along the outside a little bit. And on the middle, I'm making just little petal shapes with it. And there we have just a touch of glitter. And you could do the leaves too if you want. And then I will Mod Podge on top of that when it's dry.